Hello, and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Commissioner Amber Waldref, and my guests today are Amanda Parrish and Margo Hill. And we're going to be talking about the 50th anniversary celebration of Expo 74. Amanda, Margo, welcome to the program. Before we get started, can you each give us an introduction of yourselves and a little bit about your background?
My name is Margo Hill. I'm a Spokane tribal citizen. I grew up on the Spokane Indian Reservation in Welpinit, about 48 miles northwest of here. I have served as our tribe's attorney. Currently I'm a professor at Eastern Washington University in urban and regional planning.
Among many other things that you do, which we'll talk more about today. Okay. But Amanda?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Amanda Parrish, the Executive Director of the Lands Council. I've been part of the Lands Council for the last 15 years. I started as an AmeriCorps member, actually, as our volunteer coordinator, and have worked my way up to the role of Executive Director and have really enjoyed working on this Expo anniversary celebration for the last year.
Side note, Amanda and I go way back from when I used to work at the Lands Council, and so it's great to see all the great work she's done, and just the organization's grown so much, so congratulations, Amanda.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a running joke. Amber actually hired me at the Lands Council.
All right.
Yeah, 16 years ago
but
or so.
who would have known that, you'd be going strong 15 years later? My daughter's gonna be turning 16, so it all comes back.
That's a good lead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. I know how busy you are because there's so much going on. You've been doing a lot of planning, and now comes the actual Expo 50 events. So for many in the Inland Northwest, the Expo 1974 World's Fair was, well, it still remains one of the most memorable events in our history. And I remember my parents talking about it. Both my parents went to Expo before they knew each other. My dad and his whole family went to Expo. So it really ushered in a whole new era for Spokane that now, as a child of Spokane, I've been able to experience, celebrating urban renewal, environmental sustainability, our rich cultural tribal history. And so today I wanted to focus in on the two of the pillars and have you guys tell us more about those pillars that were part of the original Expo 74 that now we are celebrating here 50 years later. Those being environmental stewardship and tribal culture, honoring the Native American peoples who have been here since time immemorial. So Margo, I'm gonna turn it over to you to just tell us a little bit about the Expo pillars and the work that you've been involved with over the last, gosh, how long have you been involved in the planning?
So it's been since last year, but I can tell you, I was only 6 years old. I remember the World's Fair.
Wow.
And my family really were very involved in the celebrations and ceremony at the Native village and the pavilion there. So it's exciting memories for me. We had, our war dance and our ceremonies, and I can remember clearly Etta Adams Sapine, our whipwoman, lining us up, and my great-grandmother telling the history from early days of Spokane from 1910. She lived to be 103, and so in 74 she was 90, and had shared the rich history and stories of our people with the travelers to Expo 74. But we've been really involved. We have a great powwow committee, and we have a lot of folks that are working behind the scenes on all of our events and activities.
So how do the activities for the tribal pillar, so you talked about the ceremonies and the dances, and so the powwow is going to be Memorial Day weekend, is that right, downtown? Mm-hmm. And so that builds off of all of those activities that happened 50 years ago. That's amazing. So I want to recognize that those events were and are going to be held here on the ancestral homeland of the Spokane tribe, near the falls, where the tribe, it was a focus point for so many years, and it still is. Mm-hmm. And gathering fish, people coming together, multiple tribes coming together around the Spokane Falls, which is a great segue as we talk about our river into the environmental sustainability pillar. So tell us about, Amanda, many who were here in 1974 recall that this was the first time there was an environmentally focused World's Fair. It was new, it was exciting, it was kind of groundbreaking to talk about environmental sustainability. There was the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, all those things were just starting to become part of the culture and part of the conversation. So what events are you planning around that pillar, and how do they recall back to the original conversations? We've come a long way.
We have, yeah. And you know, back in 1974, in the 70s, the World's Fairs at the time, a lot of the themes were really future-oriented, really looking at future technologies. And in the 70s, that meant, you know, computer technologies. And so for Spokane to choose this Earth-centered theme of environmental stewardship, it was really a groundbreaking decision. And I did some research, and I was able to go to the MAC and their archives and look. They have boxes and boxes of every letter that was sent in 1974 to plan this. They have a copy of. It's incredible. And I was able to see letters from other countries to the people of Spokane saying, you, the people of Spokane, should be congratulated. This one from the Chilean consulate saying, we want to be kept apprised of everything you learn. This topic is so important. And we just want to congratulate you for having this forward-thinking vision. And so I think Spokane, we don't know this sometimes, but we are kind of an environmental hero internationally because of that World's Fair theme. There have been other really environmental firsts that have happened here. But today, to celebrate the 50th anniversary, one of the things that's going on actually right now this week is we're planting an Expo forest. And so we'll be planting 500 trees over the course of the week was our goal. We've already hit our goal, and we still have trees to plant tomorrow. So when you see Riverfront Park today, we know that that's, you know, what Spokane received from Expo in 1974. So every tree that is a tall, mature tree in Riverfront Park was planted 50 years ago for Expo 74. And so as the 50-year celebration, we want to look at that sort of forward thinking that those planners had for us to leave us this beautiful space to gather and recognize that we can really extend the benefits of that forest beyond that central gathering place. And so this program really kicks off a 5-year partnership between the Lands Council and the Spokane Conservation District and the City of Spokane as we expand our urban forestry efforts. So that's one way that we're celebrating. We also have on June 1st, all of the environmental groups that have been involved in planning for the environmental stewardship pillar over the last year. We're sort of taking over Riverfront Park on June 1st. And so anyone in Spokane, if you're interested in learning more about what the environmental community is doing, what's happening in conservation, all the groups will be there on one day, so you can get information from the Lands Council, from the Spokane Riverkeeper, from the Inland Northwest Lands Conservancy, and I guarantee whatever your interest is, there's work for you, there's a volunteer opportunity for you. So that's going to be a really exciting day in the park on June 1st.
Wow, I'm marking my calendar. So Memorial Day weekend, the last full weekend in May will be the powwow, and then the next weekend will be the environmental groups down at the park. Wow.
And we actually have a whole range of events.
Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, you know, so at the original Expo 74, tribes were an afterthought, and we were pretty frustrated about that. So when the city reached out and asked if we would help organize the tribal pillar and the events, we were full, all hands on deck. Folks from all the tribes are helping. We have a great powwow committee. Our folks drive in from Idaho, from the Coeur d'Alene tribe, from the reservations. The powwow is going to have lead the best drummers from across the nation. We're going to have competition dances with all of our traditional regalia. You know, come on down. Folks are welcome to come to the powwow. It's free. It's open to the community. We're going to have 2 sessions on Saturday, the 25th, and 2 sessions on Sunday, the 26th. starting at noon, ending at 5, and then starting again at 6 and going till 11, or they shut us down.
Right.
But we're going to have songs and ceremonies, and it's really going to be an exciting time. Also in Bay A, we're going to have cultural education opportunities. We'll have teepees and tule mat teepees set up. The local tribes, their culture departments will be putting up education displays. So we invite you to bring your kids down and check out the powwow. We also have a Native Music Festival and a fashion show on June 13th, and that will be right downtown at the Riverfront Park Pavilion. So we're real excited really to showcase all of our Native talent that we have here and near the city of Spokane. The 14th, we're bringing over Red Eagle Soaring. It's a theater group, and they'll be performing at Spokane Community College. And then Hoop Fest weekend, the 28th and 29th, we're going to have a Native American Film Festival. And throughout all of the 9 weeks of the Expo celebration, our tribal poets and authors will be participating in the spoken word at the community stage, as well as different, I think there's one at Manitou Park, and it's just a great opportunity to highlight some of our Native talent.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, we'll have to, we'll talk about where to find out where all these events are at the end of the program, because I know there's a website and there's new stuff going on all the time. It's just so great to see so many different community members over the last year just come together, and most of this has been volunteer. So I just really thank you for all the extra time and effort that so many of us are going to benefit from in the community. So it's very exciting. Well, I wanted to follow up on what you were saying, Amanda, on the theme of revitalizing the park. I remember looking at the old photos and video of the Expo 74, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, the trees were so small, you know? And now we have these full mature trees, and you're planting even more. So that's very exciting. Well, so they cleaned up the rail yards. It really, looking back, returned the river became kind of, we had our backs to the river. And the railroad yards kind of took over the whole area in Havermill Island. And then Expo really allowed us to turn our faces back to the river, to the focus, to the falls. So maybe talk about, you talked a little bit about how all the environmental groups are going to get together, and that internationally we became known for hosting this environmental fair. How do you think it helped environmental groups like the Lands Council or other organizations over time kind of build momentum and establish themselves here in Spokane?
Well, so the Lands Council turns 40 next year. So, you know, we started after this World's Fair had happened, and certainly I think it had an influence on the creation of a community nonprofit like the Lands Council, because like you said, the city seems to have its back to the river, and the river is why we are here. You know,
it's why all peoples
it's why all
we're
peoples are here, and it is deserving of our attention. And so I think that it has really changed the trajectory of our city, that we reoriented ourselves and sort of faced the river and developed this park that is this really central gathering location. I think that's so important for people to be able to see the river and create their own relationship with the river, because it's when people care about that resource that they will do something about it. And it's only because the rest of us have developed a relationship with the river that we can really support what the tribes are doing to bring salmon back.
Well, and that was where I was going to go next. To some degree, it's a challenging conversation that we no longer have salmon in the Spokane River. And it's still been 50 years that we're still been working on this. But how do you see all of the revitalization and the Expo 50 years ago leading into this effort now that's going on to reintroduce salmon to the Spokane River as a future vision and goal?
Yeah, so the river and the salmon was central to our very way of life. We called Spokane Skahet, place of fast-moving water. In our creation story, it speaks to, the Missoula floods, what geologists and things will explain. But we have oral history that goes back 10,000 years that talks about earthquake and flooding and young people retreating to Kulsum, Mount Spokane, and how they followed it and seen Simpleach. What is that crawling in the water? Swinhuamena, it was a salmon. And that's how we came to live at the Spokane Falls. So our people, since time immemorial, have really held this place as sacred. And so for our people to watch the degradation of the river and the polluting of, there was municipal waste, garbage and sewage going right into the river. And we watched that happen to where the water quality was so bad, it was milky green color. And so when we heard that the non-natives in the city was going to have an environmentally themed fair and was going to clean, we were pleased, to say the least. And since that time, we appreciate the environmental laws of the 70s, NEPA and SEPA, the different laws that help protect our water qualities. But our tribes, I was part of a team of lawyers at the Spokane tribe, and we applied for treatment as a state under the Clean Water Act. So our scientists, and we have really good scientists that are working hard, could set water quality standards. And people get crabby with us because they're really high water quality standards, but good clean water is good for everyone. And so the tribes have been working hard to have clean, fast, cold running water for salmon. And so that as we work to return salmon to the Spokane River, that they can survive and thrive. Tribes are buying land and protecting habitat and restoring vegetation so that there will be shade and cold running water for the salmon. So the tribes are doing a lot of really important work. Upper Columbia United Tribes, which is the Colville, Kalispell, Spokane, Kootenays of Idaho, and Coeur d'Alene's, are all working together to bring salmon back to the Spokane River.
Well, it's just so exciting. I was thinking about what you were saying about the exhibits you're going to have as part of the powwow weekend, and celebrating the cultural opportunities, exposing all ages, my children, to tribal history and culture and music and traditions. And I just think it's so exciting in the next 2 months. And I know you're a mother, and I know you're a professor at Eastern, and you're active in many, many, many efforts to promote knowledge and cultural knowledge and history and keeping the dream alive of salmon in the Spokane River. So how do you see all of this work in the Expo 50 as benefiting our community, your children, my children? Talk more about the impact of this celebration.
Yeah, so as Amanda said, that when we all pay attention to the river and see it as a beautiful resource and love and care for it, then we'll all work harder for water conservation and support our partners like the Spokane River Keepers and folks who are, they're cleaning up garbage out of the river all the time. Mm-hmm. And our local tribes are working to have clean water. And so I think when we all work together, our river is connected to our aquifer, which is our drinking water. And it's going to take all of us, protecting the river and water conservation. Our city has worked hard with our CSO tanks to make sure that we have clean water that goes back into the river, as well as water conservation. We have a code so that when they don't water their lawns from 10 to 2. I know that's controversial, but just using common sense to take care. It's such a beautiful resource. We say, the river gives us our way of life. And that's true for all of Spokane residents. It's really true. We are the river city, and anything we can do to protect it and enjoy it, whether it's recreation or fishing, that's what we can all work towards.
Sounds like a great legacy. And I know when I was on the Spokane City Council, building those tanks to get the stormwater and wastewater out of the river, it was a Herculean task, but so necessary. And then there's always a next step. There's always the next level. Well, talking about legacies, what do you see as the legacy of this Expo 50th celebration? And are there any other events you wanted to bring up that people could take part of with the environmental sustainability? focus?
Yeah, there is one event actually on June 21st. The Environmental Stewardship Pillar has been working with the Tribal Pillar to have a really special day for the community. So we will be hosting a legislative summit at the convention center, and this is kind of in response to what happened 50 years ago. So as part of Expo 74, there was an environmental symposium, a 3-part symposium that happened over the course of that year, where folks looked at, what have we done to pollute the planet? What are the international case studies of modern day 1974 happening to address these issues, and where are we going from there? And the criticism at the time was that no policies really developed from it. There weren't any lawmakers present for any of those discussions. And so 50 years later, we're going to have part 4, and we're going to have elected officials and lawmakers present with their citizens so that the people can really say, this is what's affecting me. This is what I need help with. How can you help me craft legislation that can address these issues that we're facing, whether it's around climate change or housing or childcare? And we are working with the Tribal Pillar to arrange this day so that we can also really celebrate the river as part of this. And so there's going to be a salmon ceremony
Yeah.
on the Spokane
Exciting.
River.
Yeah, we're going to have canoe races. The tribes are coming together. We're going to host our city residents and our state legislators with a buffalo feed and a salmon feed. The American Indian Community Center and the local tribes are going to come and host this dinner right at the forestry shelter in Riverfront Park. So we're excited to have canoe races, traditional, our dugout canoes and sturgeon nose canoes. And as Amanda mentioned, we're going to have state legislators. All of our native state legislators, Chris Stearns, Deborah Leekenoff, and Claudia Kaufman, are going to be in attendance at the legislative summit as well.
Excellent. Well, I think I will have to be there
Yes,
on
yes.
June
Yeah.
21st.
Yeah.
And boy, I might have to check out those canoe races. That
We
sounds
might
like
have to put you in
Oh
one.
man,
We'll see
I
if you
better
can paddle.
I better start training.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been so great to talk with. I know we're getting shorter on time here. Where can folks go to find out more about all of these events and how to get there and where they're occurring? Do you happen to have the web address for us?
Gosh, it
or
would be
where
so
to Google?
Yes, you can Google Visit Spokane's Expo calendar and all of the events for
So
all.
Visit Spokane is the host for all the events online.
Yep, that's
Great.
correct. Yeah.
Great.
And Innovia is also hosting some of the Tribal Pillar website events. We're going to have historical tours, and we're going to have environmental historical tours. So take a look at that. We're partnering with the Sierra Club to have some of those environmental history tours as well.
And the Facebook page of the Expo 50th celebration has events regularly added to it.
So that sounds amazing. So you can check it out on Facebook. You can search for it online. It'll be on the Visit Spokane page, Innovia Foundation. I've seen the billboards up. It's really exciting. Everyone's getting very excited. So, so as we wrap things up, do you have any final messages or thoughts? You talked about this policy, and gosh, couldn't we think of some new policies for the next 50 years? Any other thoughts or concluding remarks?
I'd just say that the environmental groups that have been working together, and as you've said, on a voluntary basis, I just want to have a huge shout out to the hundreds of community volunteers that have been working for the last year, not just in the Tribal Pillar and the Environmental Stewardship Pillar. All 5 pillars are voluntarily led. But in the environmental groups, we have really enjoyed meeting together on a regular basis and have committed to continuing this once this celebration is over. And so I think that the legacy that I want to see from this is a community of environmental stewardship that is working together collaboratively for the people of Spokane. And I think that we're going to see that.
And I'll just say, as an urban planning professor, I appreciated the work that King Cole and our city did to clean up our riverbanks. And I think this 50th celebration, we have a whole team of folks, Matt Santangelo and everybody across the 5 pillars that are working to have amazing events. So come on down, bring your family down, enjoy, learn about our tribal culture and history. It's a great opportunity. It's going to be right at the convention center, right at the pavilion. So I invite you to come down and join us.
Well, that sounds amazing. And most of the events, if not all, are free
Yeah.
and open to the public. And
free STA bus fare on the
yes,
weekends.
yes. So
Yeah.
if it's the weekend and you want to come down, free fare on any of the STA buses. So that's great. Thank you, STA.
Yeah.
Well, I do think we're getting close on time, so I just want to thank you both for joining me. It was a great conversation. I learned a lot, but I'd like to remind our audience that this program and videos from all our public meetings at Spokane County can be accessed on our county homepage and our Spokane County YouTube channel. I want to thank my guests, Amanda Parrish and Margo Hill, for joining me today. I'm County Commissioner Amber Waldref. Thank you for joining us for Spokane County Spotlight.